You want to build a payments app. The code is compiled and the user interface is mapped out. But before a single rupee can move through your servers, you have to cross a massive regulatory moat. In India, entering the digital payments space requires direct integration with the Unified Payments Interface, which is strictly governed by the National Payments Corporation of India, or NPCI. This guidelines document dictates the terms of entry. Gaining access to the network requires a methodical 5-step registration master plan. Registering a standard business is only the preliminary phase. The actual target is securing a third-party application provider, or TPAP license. This specific credential gives your software the legal clearance to connect directly to the banking network. By the end of this process, you will have a legally incorporated company and a functioning GST number, leaving you fully prepared to pass the rigorous branding and security audits mandated by the NPCI. Step 1 is selecting your legal structure. Whether you choose a private limited company, a limited liability partnership, or a one-person company, determines your capacity to raise external capital and secure mandatory banking partners. This chart compares the 3 primary options. Notice how the private limited designation consistently ranks highest for investor trust. More importantly, it fulfills the strict eligibility requirements most sponsor banks demand, LLP, to reduce initial filing fees. However, when it is time to apply for UPI access, banks frequently reject LLPs for sponsorship. Converting an active LLP into a private limited company later incurs massive legal costs and delays your launch by months. To avoid that compliance trap, the private limited structure is the most practical baseline for any startup intending to acquire a TPAP license. Step 2 requires gathering the non-negotiable KYC documents for all directors: PAN cards, Aadhaar cards, and a verifiable proof of office address, like a utility bill or a formalized rent agreement. Next, you must draft the Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association. These serve as the constitutional documents of your company, legally defining exactly what your business is permitted to do. Step 3 moves everything online to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs portal. You will acquire digital signature certificates, apply for director identification numbers, and finally submit your proposed company name for official approval. This official certificate of incorporation clears the path for your business to eventually associate with institutional networks, including the NPCI International and UPI systems shown here. Because the filing process is integrated, the government automatically issues your company's PAN and TAN alongside the certificate. This streamlines the transition directly into the next phase, tax registration. Step 4 is GST registration. This is a mandatory requirement for any business that participates in interstate e-commerce or reaches specific annual revenue thresholds. This branding spec sheet illustrates the exact powered by UPI units you must deploy on your transaction screens. Once registered, strict adherence to these NPCI visual guidelines is required to operate on the network. Here we see the precise geometry of the UPI mnemonic. The tricolor arrows combine a fast-forward symbol with the national flag, taking inspiration from a track athlete. Notice how the sharp edges point forward, while the curved edges reflect traditional values. This technical palette specifies the exact hex codes required. Every digital asset and piece of print collateral must match these values to maintain brand integrity across the ecosystem. These design rules act as legally binding parameters. Improper logo usage or unauthorized modifications will result in the suspension of your UPI interface. Step 5 involves budgeting for the launch. Standard professional fees for this setup range from 8,000 to 15,000 rupees. A significant portion of this covers the specialized legal drafting required for your constitutional documents. This technical grid breaks down the digital constraints your development budget must accommodate, mandating at least 40 pixels in width for standard screens to ensure full accessibility and compliance. Utilizing a specialized compliance agency covers the standard filing steps, but it also provides crucial support for the bank sponsorship liaison process and prepares your systems for the NPCI technical audits. The initial cost of professional registration buys the structural stability and trust capital necessary to successfully onboard millions of active UPI users. Reviewing the checklist, you have selected the correct business structure, filed your incorporation documents, secured your tax registrations, and mapped out the strict technical branding requirements. Receiving the certificate of incorporation marks day 1. From here, your operations shift entirely to maintaining active compliance, server security, and mandatory regulatory recording. This brand mark and usage standard represents the level of professionalism expected on the network. Start by gathering your KYC documents and consider working with a compliance partner to navigate the remaining NPCI operating procedures. By executing this exact blueprint, your startup drops its status as a mere concept and becomes a fully validated participant in India's transition to a less cash society.